How much knowledge do you need to get started? Now, I was listening to an interview, I think it was maybe a year ago, by the great Sean Mize, he of internet marketing fame, and he was given a conference call, and what he was doing was he was trying to motivate the troops. It was a question and answer thing, so you had the access to Sean, you could ask him any question you wanted to, but in this particular call he was doing it on legacy business. Now, I'm not too sure exactly what he meant by legacy, but it was probably something that somebody had at the back of their mind that they always wanted to create or do. So it could have been maybe that they wanted to have a huge website, it could be that maybe they wanted to write a book or whatever it was, but they had this kind of legacy or this big thing that they'd like to do in their lifetime. And he was asking them, when are you ever going to get it started? Now, he was talking to this gentleman on the phone, and they were talking about legacy products or legacy whatever. I forget exactly what this gentleman was looking to do. So Sean had asked him how long he had been working on his legacy project, and the man had told him he'd been working on it for 14 years. And Sean said, really? And the man says, yes. He says, I've been telling all my family and my friends that I am going to get this thing up and running or release it or whatever it was, but I've been talking about this project for 14 years. And Sean said, well, instead of wasting any more time on it, why don't you get started now? If you give yourself a target of maybe doing it within the next 30 days, I'm sure you'll be well on the way to doing it. And the thing that the man said next totally floored just me and Sean. He said that he already had it created. It was already created, but it was sitting on his hard drive. And I don't know how many years that project had been sitting on his hard drive, but this legacy thing that he had wanted to create, that he had wanted to, make a difference in people's lives, maybe leave something behind him, was sitting on his hard drive, and it was never going to be seen by anybody. Now, as you can imagine, Sean just probably did a kind of double take, saying, what? Again, just like I did, so when you're sitting on something for 14 years, you think that you would have released it at some stage, and this was the big but, and it's something that a lot of people are holding themselves back by. He said that he didn't know enough. He didn't know enough to release it. Now, that's why I asked you at the start of this video, how much knowledge is enough? How much knowledge do you need to start doing what you want to do today? Would you need 50% knowledge, 60% knowledge, 70, 80? Or are you thinking that you need 100% to get started? Now, I know when I was starting off in internet marketing, or buying a lot of internet marketing products many, many years ago, I was spending a lot more money than I was making out. If I was spending maybe $200 or $300, I was probably only taking in $1 or $2 in that kind of ratio. So there was a lot of money going out, but there was no money coming in. Now, what I found was that after a while, after a couple of years of buying all these products from all these internet marketing people, I found I eventually was looping back on the knowledge I was buying. I was suddenly buying a report on maybe how to write a good ebook, and I realised that the knowledge in the book was something that I already knew. There might have been one or two small parts, but 70 or 80% of the knowledge in that ebook was something that I already knew. And when I closed the report, I realised I could have wrote a better report than this person that sold it, but yet this person was the one that was making the money, and I was the sap who was paying for it. And for me, that was a big wake-up call, because how much knowledge do you really need to get started? So I think from that point on, I think I woke up to actually taking more action than paying out on. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, I need to know at least 100% on how to do writing before I take up fiction writing. Or maybe you might say to yourself, again, the same too, when it comes to maybe blogging or creating YouTube videos or whatever it is, this big legacy project that you have been setting aside for years, and you haven't taken action on it because you think you need just a tiny wee bit more knowledge before you can get started. And I'm here to tell you, as Sean did to that gentleman, you're totally kidding yourself, because you are never going to know 100%. If you had trouble, or maybe you thought, well, you need to know more knowledge on WordPress because that is the software you are going to be using to create your blog, You may say to yourself, well, I need to know every little thing about WordPress before I can get started. And that might be fair enough. You might need to know a lot about WordPress, but do you need to know 100% of it? Because even if you do learn 100% of it, by the time you get to the end of that knowledge, the goalposts will have moved a little bit further. WordPress might have updated the software. There might be new tricks that you might need to learn. There may be some knowledge that, was useful at the time, but maybe that isn't part of WordPress anymore. Or take it over to fiction writing. Maybe you might think that you need to know everything about fiction writing, but times change, trends change. Maybe something that you are learning how to do right now, that may be gone in a year or two's time when you've got to the end of this knowledge that you need to learn. And unfortunately, some people use this kind of collecting knowledge as a way to procrastinate. They think, well, as long as I'm reading, as long as I'm filling my head with knowledge, it's productive time. But if it's not making you any money, if it's not helping you sell any books, it's not. It's total wasted time, because you aren't taking action on that knowledge you are putting into your head. So, as I said, even with 60% knowledge, you could give something a good go. You could give it a good start from now, and you will find, as you are working on something, you will find maybe there might be something that you're weak at, and then you can study that small thing and then keep going. And then when you come to the next hurdle, learn the next wee bit that you need to learn and move on to the next bit. So rather than going out and trying to fill your head with 100% knowledge of what you need to know, even starting off at 60% knowledge is going to put you way ahead of where you are right now, and you can pick up the extra 5-10% along the way as you come to a roadblock, or you come to something that is just complicated. Find out how to do it, find out how to sell your books, how to write better or whatever, and then once you get over that small hurdle, keep going until you come to the next hurdle. So, as I said, rather than waiting for having 100% knowledge, which will change and which is constantly updating, again, as the internet changes and people's taste and all those different things change, you're never going to know 100%. The goalposts are always going to be moving, and you're just kidding yourself by filling your head full of knowledge that is probably going to be useless in the long run. Better to set off with half of that knowledge and learn as you go along, and at least as you're learning as you're going along, you're keeping up with the trends, you're keeping up with whatever software you're using, or you're keeping up with, whatever you need to keep up with by learning as you're going along, rather than thinking you need to know everything before you start off. So give that some thought this week. Are you a busy fool? Somebody who is reading everything, studying everything, watching videos on everything because you think you need 100% knowledge before you put the car in gear and head off on your merry way? I'm here to tell you that you don't. Even at 60% knowledge, even if you don't know what you're doing, it's better to set off and learn as you go along the way, because things will change, things will be updated, things, aren't going to be the same as they used to be with the internet and the way things are changing online. That old knowledge might be totally useful. It's like somebody who's going to college and studying some subject for 3 or 4 years, and the textbooks that they are using are probably going on knowledge that was relevant 10 years ago. So when they come out in the marketplace, they find, well, the business knowledge or whatever they have learned in college isn't useful. It is predated, and that market has moved along further, or the business has moved along further than what's been in those books. So think about that. Are you filling your head full of knowledge because you're using it as procrastinating? Do you think you need more before you get started? Are you kidding yourself that you need to know everything about a particular topic before you get started? Or are you just going to set off with 60% knowledge or 50% knowledge and learn it as you go along? Because that is the best way to learn, is when you're actually in it, hands-on experience, and you'll see exactly what you need to do, rather than reading from a textbook or from some place where you aren't actually taking knowledge on that yet. So give that some thought this week. Now, if you'd like to ask me a question and you'd like me to cover something in an upcoming video, you're very welcome to send an email to barryjmcdonald writecom@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to know more about these videos or the podcast, you're very welcome. Do a search for Writecom, that's WRITECOME.com. And we have a great free report at the moment, which is going to show you 10 ways you can make money from your words, even if you flunked English at school. And that is a really great report, and you will learn a lot from it. So if you head over to Writecom, you can pick that up today. So as always, thanks for sharing your time with me again today, and take care and have a great day. Bye bye.